Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about inspections and appraisals and how that can affect a seller.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Buzz, Coffee and Real Estate. We're jumping into appraisals and inspections today. So just so you understand where in the timeline process here, we've prepped the house, we've got everything, we've priced it, it's on the market, we got an offer, maybe multiple offers, we've accepted an offer, we've received any kind of deposits.
Yep.
So now we're ready to move into what we call the due diligence period here in North Carolina. You have some states that are due diligence states, you have other states that are contingency states. We're not really going to try to handle that one right now because this is what we work in. But the due diligence stage is kind of like the high risk stage. So
right.
give us some process there. What's happening?
Yeah, so basically at this point your due diligence has been put there so that you can do due diligence on the home.
So the buyer's money, whatever they had, is at risk right now.
That's right. So that money they put up front in due diligence is the seller's money at this point. The only time that this would ever change is if there's lying involved or deceit.
Okay.
So like, hey, the house is crumbling in the crawl space and you totally should have known that. And you did not tell anybody or disclose any of that.
Gotcha.
Or, you know, the roof is been, I had this happen one time. This is a funny story. So I had this one client one time that we ended up getting due diligence money back. The house, they had pressure washed the roof and then painted it with spray paint so that it looked like it was a new roof. And so,
That's a great idea in sort of a backwoods, redneck
kind of way.
Dishonest sort of way. Man, that's like got some weirdness to it.
So I went back to the listing agent, was like, you totally had to have known about this, or they at least knew and they totally lied about it. So at that point we got the DD back. But that's a very over-exaggerated story for that.
That's nuts.
But that would be the kind of stuff we're talking about. But in the due diligence period, this is your opportunity to have an inspection done, or any inspections, just so that you know you have home inspection, you have radon, you have termite, or any kind of wood destroying bug.
But the buyers are in charge of scheduling all of that, paying for all of that. So from the seller's perspective, you're kind of sitting back and waiting for some of these reports or things to come in.
Yes.
So this is the pack but don't pack stage.
That's right.
It's the I'm moving but maybe not quite yet stage. Because this is the high risk stage.
That's right. Yeah.
So anything having to do with like the inspections side, some of those things you just listed off, and then also you have the appraisal. So what's the difference between those two?
Sure. So you have inspections, like I said, those are going to be investigating the home itself. Appraisal is going to be evaluating value of the home. So a lender is going to hire an appraiser, third-party source, to come in and say, this house is worth this amount of money. Because we're lending on it. We're giving you money to be able to buy it. And because you're doing that, we want to make sure that the lender wants to make sure they're not getting ripped off.
Gotcha. So,
in the process.
So they're going to have to use the home as collateral to ensure that the buyer actually pays the mortgage.
That's right.
And therefore, if they have collateral, they got to make sure it's worth what they think it's worth.
Exactly.
So they're going to send but an appraiser, like when they come to the house, they're not looking through the crawl space and all that sort of thing.
They're peeking, I would say. This is what we talked about in the last video. If it's FHA, VA, or USDA and they're government loans, then they do a little bit more investigating than they do in a conventional, and of course in cash they don't even have one. So those are the differences. But yes, they are going to at least open the door and kind of look underneath. If it's super sketch, like, man, there's no plastic down there. I see mold all over the joists and all of the insulation's been tore down or something like that. Then at that point, they're going to be like, we're going to go investigate.
But for the most part, they're not going through it with a fine-tooth comb like a home inspector.
That's right. They're only going to investigate if there's something to make them feel they need to.
Gotcha.
So in most cases, they're walking in. Most of the time, an appraiser's in the house for about 30 minutes at max. They're looking at it, they're walking through the house, they walk around the outside, just make sure everything is
and
normal.
They schedule that with the seller.
That's right.
So that is the buyer's bank has contracted out with this appraiser. It's in a pool, it just rotates. The bank can't control the appraiser.
Exactly.
They can't pick their favorite one or anything. The appraiser schedules it. If you're using a listing agent, then they will schedule through the third-party showing source. In this case, Showing Time in our area is that third-party source. So you would get a notification, or they would reach out to you as the seller. Hey, I'd like to come Tuesday at 3. Like you said, typically 20, 30 minutes, something like that. It's not that big a deal. And then that happens pretty quickly within the first, say, 5 or 6 days. of going under contract, another potential 4 or 5 days for the appraiser to get all the info back. So if the appraisal comes in, like give us a couple of scenarios if it comes in.
Sure, I'm gonna hit two things. First
Okay.
thing, if you're a for sale by owner,
Okay.
just to kind of touch on that.
Yeah.
Two tips. One, don't talk to the inspector because he will ask you questions that you will then have to answer, and it could get you in a situation that you don't want to be
Just
in.
go ahead and leave and
That's
get
right.
out of the way while they're in.
That's right. Same thing for the appraisal.
Okay.
I would not have a ton of conversation unless you're good at talking and you're not going to say too much. That would be the only time that maybe that could be the case. But in most cases, most sellers talk too much. I would tell them not to be there in those scenarios, or let the door out and go sit in your car or something like that.
Yeah.
Just so there's not any more option for asking questions that the inspector should find on his own, not by asking questions to find out from the seller.
Sure. And sometimes sellers don't know, or they give false information, or they end up kind of putting, there wasn't even a confusion. There wasn't even any issue with the house, but because of the way something was phrased or all of a sudden it causes some big stink. So yeah, it's not that you're trying to intentionally mislead.
Yes.
It's just you're trying to let those folks do their proper job.
Yeah.
And they've got their protocols for how they do it.
That's right. Exactly. And so the other question you asked me was?
I was just going to say, as far as the appraisal coming in low, high, or on the sale price.
Sure. And so from a seller's perspective, if I get a low appraisal, I'm at a place of negotiation or at a place of I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
Right? So there's 2 points there. One is I don't care. You put an offer in, you got a bunch in due diligence, you figure it out to the buyer. Second would be, hey, I'll meet you in the middle, or we'll negotiate something that works for both parties.
Let's say the appraisal came in $10,000 lower than the agreed upon sale price.
That's right.
So you could just say, hey, buyer, come up with an extra 10 grand in addition to their closing costs and all of that.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we're going to meet in the middle. I'll drop the sale price down a little bit.
Yeah.
Or
last one would be, hey, I'm just going to eat it. I'll take
drop
care
it
of the
all the
whole
way down to the appraised value.
Yeah. So different markets, of course, would call for different things. 10 years ago, a lot of sellers were doing that because it was more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. So they would drop
anything to keep the deal.
Going, and then you kind of get in that middle tier, which, we kind of saw probably in the last, I would say 7 years, where it was kind of a negotiation between the two. Let's meet in the middle.
A little give and take there.
Seller's market, of course, sorry, deal with it, kind of thing. And so those definitely happen. Now, I will say this, there's two things that can happen with the seller's side of it. One, you can challenge the appraiser.
Okay.
You can have your agent send comps, reach out to the appraiser and say, hey, we don't necessarily agree. And we've had to do this.
We have, and it's not a fun process.
It's
because
not.
Appraisers kind of, it
Frowned upon.
is what it is. We have had some adjust, but not necessarily the whole way that we wanted them to adjust.
Exactly. And we've had that with new constructions. We've had that with existing homes. But that's one piece of it is you can challenge. Second thing you can do, and this is kind of a more expensive route, but if you get in the situation as the buyer, I'm more or less speaking to, but for a seller, this is an option you can give them. They could get another loan. They could go to another lender, have another appraisal done that, as long as it's not FHA.
FHA's got a special little
6-month window
wrinkle thing there where you can't do that.
That's right. But if you're in conventional, you can, and so they could just go to another lender as a buyer, pay the new appraisal, have it rerun through, and then it may come through better if you're confident that that's the case.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, but as the seller, you will never ever see the appraisal unless it came in low. And they're sending you that bad news email saying like, hey, we got a $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 problem that we got to figure out how to negotiate with.
That's right.
So that's the appraisal side of it. That's for the bank.
Yep.
That's for the loan. You wouldn't even have that if it was a cash transaction.
That's right.
The home inspection, and it could be any number of different inspections, like you said, radon, which they have to leave a little sensor in your house for like 3 or 4 days?
24 hours to up to 72 hours.
Okay, so 1 to 3 days, they're going to leave this thing probably on a little tripod sitting somewhere in your house that measures radon gas levels in your home. Home inspection, termite inspection, so they're going to need access to the house.
Septic inspection, well inspections, things of that nature.
Yep, they could be running property line inspections, make sure the property lines are correct. Anyway, there's lots of different things they could do, but they'll be scheduling all of those things during that due diligence period. And then how it typically would run is that you the seller, you're kind of sitting on your haunches, letting them do what they need to do, and then all of a sudden you're going to get this, hey, we're sending you a list of what we would like for you to fix, or
That's right.
they may just be asking for a seller credit
Yeah.
Towards repairs.
A lot of times I think they end up asking for the repairs and then they back into closing credits. Mainly just, it's negotiation,
Sure.
right? So
It's round 2 of negotiation.
That's
Round
right.
1 was the initial sale price and due diligence and all of those things. Round 2 is, okay, now that we've investigated the house a little bit further, these were things that we couldn't have seen, couldn't have known when we made the initial offer.
that's right. And those are the 3 points. You have initial, inspection, and appraisal. Most of the time, if you're a smart agent, you will combine those 2 together, because I'm not going to negotiate on a due diligence request and then turn around and negotiate on an appraisal.
It just,
Do them at one time.
right, do them
That
all
way,
at one time.
you're not like, oh, well, we'll give you this, and then they turn around, oh, well, and then the price came in low. So now you're getting double hit.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing, just as a seller, if you're for sale by owner, or if you have a realtor, make sure that that's something that you're communicating is, hey, I'm not making a decision on anything until both of these items have come in.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
But yeah,
So we've gotten that email or that correspondence has been sent over to us. It's probably going to be a list. Hopefully the buyer had enough common sense to use a really good home inspector.
yeah,
Because we have had inspectors, and they tend to get a reputation out there of, it's somebody that basically makes buyers just want to run from every house. The inspector is the official bearer of bad news. They're always going to have a 50-page report with 81 things wrong with it, even if it's a brand new house or fully remodeled. It's just all nitpicky items. Okay, that's their job. That's okay. The buyer's agent needs to have enough common sense to say, okay, Mr. Buyer, what are the top priority things? We need to keep this in like probably the 3 to 6 item range, because you, the seller, you want to handle the most important stuff. Okay, don't send me the nitpicky, this wasn't quite the way I wanted it. Stick with the high priority stuff, the legitimate stuff. So they're going to send you that email. Hopefully they'll include, if they're referencing a home inspection report, they'll send you the home inspection report so you can see the pictures or video or a description or whatever it is that they're doing. And then you'll have to decide how to do it. Typically it's easier for the seller to just give a credit.
that's right.
Hey, this stuff looks like it's about $500 worth of stuff. Maybe the buyer is actually presenting a quote from a contractor. That would be nice.
Yep.
Presenting a quote from a contractor, hey, this stuff is going to cost $575 to fix. Awesome, great. So I can choose to fix it, use their contractor to fix it, use my contractor to fix it. But a lot of times I've already moved out of the house, or I'm in the middle packing up, or I'm trying to get into my next house. Hey, $575, we're going to do a seller credit at closing. Everybody signs an amendment to the contract where we've raised the seller credits from 0 to $575, or maybe we're already offering a $1,000 seller paid closing costs or something. Anyway, we've gone up by that amount, whatever it is we've negotiated. The seller signs off on it, they're done.
Yep.
The buyer is going to be responsible to use their contractor, whoever they're comfortable with after closing, which actually is kind of nice. I mean, right? Wouldn't you want the buyer who's going to be living in the house to go ahead and handle it? The seller, it's tough. Okay, great, I got to pay for stuff as I'm going out the door. Some sellers don't get it done with a high integrity solution, right? Kind of stick a Band-Aid on it. Yeah, and because it's not going to be my house in a week. Of course, you don't want to do that. Let's do it the right way. But it's just simpler if these are the folks, this is what's important to them to have fixed.
That's right.
They're having somebody they trust to come in and fix it. So
Exactly.
that tends to be the most simple, easiest way to do it. But all that being said, all of that's negotiation. It's going to be case-by-case basis, really tough for us to know every scenario. And then once you get that signed off on, I mean, what would you say at that stage of the game as far as percentage-wise? Are you at a 50% that it's actually going to close, 90% that it's actually going to close? I mean, if we can get through the appraisal hoop and the inspection hoop.
Really, at that point, the only thing that can go wrong is, the buyer gets cold feet or something.
Loses their job.
Yeah, there has to be something that's outside of the transaction that would cause the problem to happen.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'm thinking, the transactions that we've run, 90 to 95%. It's a sure thing. Go ahead and pack your bags at that stage of the game.
That's right.
Really tough to pack your bags before you get that far. Once we've started to get that far, and we've gotten all of that signed off on, then it's pretty much a real thing now.
That's right.
We have had stuff fall through, but very, very, very rarely.
Yeah.
At that stage too, everybody's committed, right? Because here's one other thing to consider. In addition to the due diligence money, the buyer has now spent $500, $600, $700 on an appraisal. They've spent $400, $500, $600 on their inspections. They're an extra $1,000 or $1,500 deep into this thing. That's all going to be wasted if they back out. So once you get to that point, everybody's got a lot of incentive to go ahead and get the thing closed.
Yeah, I mean, if you just to kind of give preference, I mean, for a seller, if you're just doing basic inspection, you're probably $400 or $500. If you do like the whole gamut, I think like when I ran my house, because my house needed work, and so I wanted to know everything that was wrong with it.
Yeah.
So I ran every inspection there was, and I think it was about $1,300.
Well, you had the well and septic
That's
stuff
right.
too.
That was everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I did not do was a survey.
Okay.
But everything else I had done, and that was about $1,300.
Yeah.
So if they've done the whole gamut, plus their due diligence, plus their appraisal, they could be, in some cases that could be $2,000 or $3,000 in with these items, and then whatever their due diligence is.
Yeah. So all that to say, it's pretty sure it's going to close at that stage of the game.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will continue on the next step, which would be kind of the last minute, oh my gosh, we're getting close to finishing this thing.
Yeah.
We'll hit that on the next episode. But this, we really just wanted to, this high risk due diligence period, typically about 3.5 weeks. And so, yeah, leave questions down in the comments below. Not the description. We wrote that. You write the comments. Cam will get it right one day. Yeah, we would love to hear from you. Any kind of questions that you have at this stage. This can be really confusing, and how to navigate this.
Yeah.
Would love to have some back and forth. Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, like it, share it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Sounds good.